Here we go. It is August. I can't believe it's August already. It's time for another happy hour. So we are live across the LinkedIns. We're on Facebook under my personal profile, and we are live on our LinkedBanker YouTube channel. So hopefully we'll get to see some folks out there in the happy hour world interested in coming up on stage and having a conversation, chatting a little bit, talking about what's on your mind. So while we're waiting for folks to join, if we've not met, hello, I'm Eric, and I'm a recovering banker of 15 years, and I've been running a digital agency since 2007, which is now in my 19th year. Do a lot of speaking and teaching and talking and sharing and educating on all things digital, social, and now AI. And these happy hour events are my effort to try to bring banking professionals and those that are banking adjacent together just to have a conversation and to share ideas and thoughts and to interact with each other. Now, I know it is 5 o'clock, so some of you might be leaving work and maybe just listening on your way home from the office. Some of you might still be at the office, but either way, hopefully, if you're interested in joining the discussion today, I've got a link up here. Let me see if I point like this. Ooh, look at that. Pretty cool. Go to www.thelinkedbanker.com/happy hour. And on that page, the happy hour page, you can scroll down and the link on the left will give you the ability to click the link that takes you to the Restream link that will bring you into this stream, and that will give you then the ability to come up on stage and be part of the discussion. These are unscripted, so if nobody shows up, yours truly is going to chat for maybe an hour, maybe not so much, but we're going to talk about a few things that are on my mind, but these are unscripted. There's no specific, let's see here. All right. Josh is coming up. Let's go ahead. We're going to add Josh to the stream. Hey, Josh, as speaking of driving home from work, that's exactly what you're doing right now. But they're unscripted. They don't really have any set specific objective. This isn't a sales pitch. This isn't a formal presentation. We've set these up so that they're just networking events. Whoever wants to show up and have a chat, talk about what's on their mind, kick things around, ask questions, meet new people. I think these are a great opportunity just to get together and interact with each other. And so my good friend Josh is road tripping, eyes on the road, forward, but you can certainly talk. So Josh, what's on your mind? Welcome. And I guess
what's happening?
For those that don't know you, you tend to be, I was going to say a frequent flyer, but you're never flying, you're always driving. A frequent driver on our happy hours. Give a little backstory about yourself. What do people want, or what should they know about Josh Hondo?
Sure. How many years? Gosh, lots in marketing. Over half my life now in marketing, mainly at financial institutions, bank and credit union. So bankers don't get mad, credit unions don't get mad.
Equal opportunity marketer in the financial services space.
We also do marketing for businesses through our agency side, which is the latter side, so that's pretty cool. I'm a big marketing nerd and a nerd in general, but all good.
Good. And you've got somebody from Michigan, friends with somebody in Ohio, and we're not going to talk about the Wolverine Buckeye problem, challenge, animosity, because I really don't care, and I don't think you do. So we're good with that. So
I'll tell you what. Speaking of marketing, though, do you recall? I think it was ESPN some years ago. They had a commercial for somebody from Ohio State in full gear, and somebody from the Wolverines in full gear, and they were like making out. Do you remember this commercial?
I would remember that, and I don't remember that.
And it said, without sports, this wouldn't be disgusting, or something like that.
Oh, too funny. So, well, as a fellow financial marketer, I know you got your nose in a lot of things these days and certainly pay attention to a lot of stuff. And we've got conversations that go back and forth periodically. What's on your radar these days? What do you want to chat about?
So I would love to get your and anybody else out in the audience's opinion on recruiting marketing. So
Ooh.
Indeed, over time here, has really made a lot of terrible changes to their algorithm. It used to be you could go on Indeed and you could see a button for a lot of places that would say apply on company website. Well, Indeed has done away with that, which yay for them, because then they can remarket to you as an applicant and say, hey, you applied at this job, you'll probably like this job. It's
Yeah.
bad for the people that are trying to hire people because they're potentially getting more job offers. They've
Yep.
also changed to where if you have multiple locations, like a financial institution, that are within 30 miles of one another, and you have like the same position. For example, you're hiring a teller at location A and location B, and they're within 30 miles, you can't have them listed separately. So if I put location A's address and location B's address, they're too close. Indeed says, nah, we're not going to show that job. They're going to show one of them. So instead, you have to post one job but put both addresses within the field of it.
That's
Or
ridiculous.
you can
Yeah.
bypass all of that and throw money at Indeed, and they will happily take it, and then they'll show your stuff.
Oh, of course.
So
Yeah. Money solves everything, right?
it sure does, for
Yeah.
them anyway.
Yeah.
I keep
That's
waiting
crazy.
on someone to enter the marketplace and talk about how ridiculous this is
Yeah.
and just kick Indeed's butt. But I thought ZipRecruiter might, but it's never happened. So
I was going to ask you about ZipRecruiter and whether or not you've given that a shot. And it's funny.
they're
I was
okay,
yeah.
but Indeed's the 900-pound gorilla, man.
Yeah. That's a bummer. I was actually down in Illinois this week doing a few things for the CBAI, and yesterday was our marketing forum, and one of the questions actually came up on recruiting and hiring, and I heard some Indeed scuttlebutt, and people weren't very happy. I don't use Indeed, and we're not in a hiring mode, so it's not anything that would expose anything to me, but bankers were very frustrated about that. So one of the bankers, and I was kind of leaning towards social media as a way to help distribute and build visibility.
Yep.
One of the banks that was there, and I think multiples, have a recruiting bonus for staff where if you, like, I work at the credit union and I think it's
Like a
an awesome
referral.
place to work, and I talk to you about it, and you come in and you last 30 or 180 or whatever days, I get a bonus, and that ranged anywhere between $500 to $1,000. So the employee was incentivized, obviously, to try to bring in people that are going to last, that are going to be a fit for the culture, but that gave them a really nice way to make some money when they bring somebody else into the family. And so the bank that was frustrated was paying $500, and the banker that was sitting right next to her was paying $1,000 and said, we don't really have a problem. So maybe that would solve, or at least present some opportunity to reward your staff for identifying other people that they would want to bring into the organization. And if they stick around, everybody wins. Another banker posted something on his personal Facebook profile about how great it was to work at the bank and how that they are in the process of looking to hire, and did it just through personal, didn't even put it really on the bank's page, but did it through his personal, and then his friends then shared it. And what they did was and his friends being other friends that work at the bank, they were also sharing it. What they did is they said, instead of contact the bank for more information, they said, hey, get in touch with me if you'd like to learn more, because I really love working here and I'd be happy to tell you all about it. And so it invited that, and I don't know, and I won't name the bank so we don't get anybody in trouble. I don't know how appropriate that is from a hiring perspective. So I'm not an HR professional. So if that violates HR policies, my apologies. But it was really effective because the people on the other end could go to their friend that they knew who worked at the bank and ask them questions like, tell me what it is about working there, or what's your boss like, or what's your CEO like, or how long have you been there? And then the employees actually knew how to answer a handful of questions, but then could get them to the appropriate place for the actual formal application or interview process. And I think he got permission to hire 2 new people for the marketing department, and he got like 24 applications, and all but like 3 of them came directly through Facebook or
Nice.
some large number. And there was just a handful of them that didn't come through Facebook, but all the ones, and the 2 people that he ended up making offers to and hiring all came through that personal network through Facebook.
Cool.
So that was cool. And then the last item, what I was originally thinking about, and I hadn't even really thought of Facebook, is you can post it on your company page on LinkedIn. And then those individuals that are active on LinkedIn can go to their profile, click on their picture, go to the frames. And then there's the hiring frame, which I think is purple, if I'm not mistaken. But then you can put that and say, we're hiring. And then that is an outward sign that, hey, we're adding people to the team. If you're interested, get in touch and let me know. And then when you share your company page's post about hiring or your job it's an open opportunity, and I say this about anything that you do on LinkedIn, rarely do you just click on reshare and reshare as is. You always want to take the initiative to add a little perspective, reshare it with comments so that you can add a little bit of additional information to why you're sharing it, what you love about working at the bank or the credit union, what you find most rewarding, what a typical day looks like, those sorts of things. So yeah, just some thoughts. Do you guys have any sort of an incentive plan for staff for referrals for bringing in new employees?
Yep, we're at the $500 level. If somebody gets referred and stays on for X amount of time, I'm not sure what X is off the top of my head, but we have that. We are going to try doing some paid ads on Facebook.
Okay.
To specifically target people in the area, because Indeed's just been such a joke basically lately.
Yeah.
To try and get everything perfect and lined up, and we've had conversations with our rep from Indeed, and we're looking to fix that, but that takes time and to test and to try. And so in the meantime, what do we do? Because our job's like shadow banned. So
when you have your conversations with your rep from Indeed, what do they say? Do they acknowledge that the platform's getting jacked up and doing things that, or are they holding the line? I'm curious.
They're really blaming it on AI, writing their algorithm differently now that it shows up differently. And I can tell you from years ago, Indeed's been changing their business plan slowly but surely to say money please every time you post a job.
Yeah.
So it's just culminating to that, to where at some point, if you want your job to be shown, you got to jump through all these hoops and make it perfect, or shell them out some cash.
Got it. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Unless there's a silver bullet I don't know about.
What's that?
Unless there's a silver bullet I don't know about.
not one that I'm aware of, but again, we're not posting jobs over on Indeed or any of those places, so I don't really know. I do know, and you probably know this as well, but employment is one of the touchy topics from a Facebook ad perspective. Anything that talks about home ownership, the extension of credit, anything that talks about employment or jobs, those get treated and reviewed a little bit, with a lot more scrutiny. So I will wish you luck and keep my fingers crossed, because I've heard horror stories. When somebody goes in and they try to advertise for a job for a mortgage lender, it triggers both employment and home loans, but you're not really going after home loans. You want to get a mortgage lender where you're just going after a job, but the AI catches mortgage, which is a trigger term. And now all of a sudden you've got all these requirements as it relates to the extension of credit and, where people live. So it just gets a little touchy and all of that. So AI is great, but not when it's not intelligent enough to not do the wrong thing. And
Yep.
it is what it is. So um, the pay to play model also kind of reminds me of some of the articles that I've read about Yelp over the years. And I don't know if you heard this. I was going to try to do a little sidebar Googling, or maybe AIing, I guess is the case these days. But I had heard somewhere that one of the platforms, and maybe it was OpenAI, struck a deal with Yelp for search results, if I'm not mistaken. And Yelp has this notorious reputation of you can pay to be a part of the Yelp ecosystem, but if you're not paying, I've read articles where like the negative reviews, like in a Google review on a Google business profile page, the negative ones start coming up more frequently than the positive ones. And if you pay, the positive ones come up more than the negative ones. I don't know how true or substantiated that is, but I read it on the internet, so that means it's true, right?
Definitely true.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but I don't know if you've got any experience with Yelp or have heard any of that. Um,
I have heard and seen some of that from a client that I worked with before in the restaurant area, where they alluded to that, but again, they didn't have the hard evidence to say, yes, this is definitely happening. But
yeah.
it very much felt like that to them.
Yep. So yes, OpenAI is officially a content licensing and integration deal with Yelp to bring local business data and actions directly into ChatGPT. Data access, GPT integration, reservations and wait lists, request a quote feature, terms and conditions non-exclusive, and financial terms were not made available. We could dive in and see what local business SEO has to do with it, but we're not going to go to that extent. But yeah, it looks like that's actually that's coming along. So
I wonder the level
hopefully they
of
do.
influence that will hold over Google reviews or anything for what OpenAI is pulling from.
Yeah, I think from what I've seen, I follow a bunch of influencers that are deep into the whole AI and the SEO stuff, and they're very much don't stop doing what you're doing on Google. By all means, it very much is important to try to get your reviews out there. And if you're not using the local URL and the local QR code for the office that's where the account's being opened or the loan's being closed, you really need to maybe revisit your strategy and provide a card or a QR code that somebody can take home with them and do a review once they get back to their house, and provide their feedback about what their experience was like at the institution. I'll say FI because I am talking to a credit union guy now, so I can't be just total banker mode. I'll be respectful. Don't worry. So,
There was a
the other thing
system that I
that
looked
just
at.
no, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was saying there was a system that I looked at once upon a time. I think it was called Ask Nicely was the name of the company. I don't know if you've
Oh,
heard of
nice.
them, but they had it nailed down pat to where it would pull random transactions from people that came in and did a transaction at the branch, and it would send them a survey like that throughout the day. Like as
Really?
soon as they got it done, they'd get a text message, and you could do it, and it would rate immediately to Google through that text message. They had some kind of integration. It was really, really slick. It was kind of expensive from what I recall, but it was really neat. If you wanted true data on how your folks are doing in the branch, that really looked like the way to go.
So I've just done. I'll be your Googler since you're driving, so I don't want you steering with your kneecap and typing with your thumbs. Ask Nicely is growth through exceptional customer experiences, turn real-time customer sentiment into action. AI-powered customer experience platform built for multi-location businesses, capture real-time customer sentiment, get action-oriented recommendations, and proactively grow a reputation that attracts and retains customers. So they apparently don't do anything with credit unions because I saw the word customer in there like 3 or 4 times. So. A little credit union joke for you there. I hope you don't mind.
I don't.
Yeah. So, but that seems kind of cool. I've never heard of these guys before. So, um, I'll leave that up and browse around a little bit after the happy hour is over.
Cool.
Yeah. No, the thing that popped into my head as you were talking and as I was reading some of the results from the Yelp integration is ChatGPT OpenAI ads has now come out of. I think it's still technically beta, but it's not $200,000 a month beta. So if you're interested, and I don't know if you've played around with ChatGPT ads or requested access, I think if you go to ads.chatgpt.com, that'll get you to the platform and you can log in with your account and request access. We got access to it. We have a client that's interested in doing some experimentation with it. Not really going to spend a tremendous amount of money, but there's also not a tremendous expectation that we're going to get huge results. We're just curious to see what's going to happen.
Yep.
So for those that aren't familiar with what that looks like, on the free version and then the light version, which is I think like $8 a month versus the $20 a month plus plan. When you have a conversation with ChatGPT, if there is an ad that matches that conversation, and from a financial services perspective, somebody goes into ChatGPT, hey, I want to buy a house, help me figure out what PMI stands for, how much do I need for a down payment, what are the things that I need to account for in my budget as a homeowner, what is escrow and why do I need it and how does it work? If any of those conversational elements appear, you could put a ad together that says, hey, we do mortgage loans, we do home loans, and then present a little advertising push that says, hey, looking for a mortgage, check us out, we're the local choice, and then lead that back to a landing page. From what I understand, the Chat GPT platform doesn't provide a tremendous amount of tracking or data on the inside yet. They're still experimenting, as are we. But if you've got the willingness to do a little experimentation and want to try some things just to see what's going on, to position maybe a bigger win down the road, that might be something to kick around. So have you looked into that or investigated it at all?
I didn't realize it had shifted over to the not $200,000 level. So I knew that it existed and it was ridiculous to get
Yeah.
involved. But if they've lowered that, yeah, I'd throw a little bit of money in it just to see, hey, what can we get out of it?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like when Netflix decided they were going to do ads. It was the same thing. Yeah, you can do ads, but guess what? Netflix wants a boatload of money to do that. And those numbers are coming down through connected TV and DSPs and all that other stuff. So, yeah, interesting. Let's see. We got a comment. Ooh, Craig Young's getting spicy. Maybe I wasn't supposed to put that up there. Maybe screwing isn't the word that we're going to want to use. Maybe not being so friendly to small businesses. But you crack me up, Craig. It's always good to know exactly how you're thinking. And Craig's got some chops. He's been in the ad space for a while. So, yeah, it's unfortunate because you leverage that. And, with the review service, I think of any place that I go and I expect to get feedback from a review perspective, whether it's on Amazon or Fiverr or whatever, I really want those to not be tainted by how much money's being spent, because somebody's spending a ton of money, I'm only going to get the sugar coat, and that's not cool because I want the real story. Or if someone's doing a really good job and they got one or two, because sometimes, let's face it, some people just can't be pleased. One of the things that I kind of like doing, and this is maybe a little bit of a passive aggressive Eric coming out, but when somebody posts a negative review on something, it's always a curious exploration to see, well, who else has this individual reviewed?
Yeah.
And are there any positive reviews for this person? Because they might just be cranky. They might just decide, you know what? I don't like anything. I don't like the movie. I don't like the restaurant. The hotel was terrible. The cab was dirty. And guess what? The bank sucks or the credit union sucks. So the feeling is mutual, Craig. By the way, linkbanker.com/happy hour. If you want to come up and be part of the conversation, we'd love to see you and you could chat with us. But you might be in transit. I know you often join when you're going point to point as well. And not everybody's as brave as Josh to just go ahead and hop in and do his behind the wheel with Josh on a Thursday. So, but it's good to see you in the audience, my friend. So, yeah, so there was one other thing that jumped into my head. Yeah, I can't think of it. It might come back. But one of the items that I do want to mention, and I posted on this, I think last week, but if you haven't noticed, and I'm just going to double check to make sure that they didn't take it away. So hold on just a hot minute here. But there was a feature, or I guess a setting that was added in LinkedIn where if you go to somebody's post, let's say someone shares something and you can go and click on the little 3 dots on any post. The seems like AI slop, second from the bottom, that got released a couple of weeks ago. Have you used it yet, Josh?
Oh, I'm going to now that I know that it's there. I see a lot of AI slop out there, man.
I'll be honest though, because I don't remember where I saw that this got released, but I was like, oh my gosh, because I know that there's always been some hullabaloo about in the reactions a thumbs down. And you had the purple baby, the whatever you want to call it, like curious or something. I don't know what it was, but that got removed. There had been an effort from some of the LinkedIn influencers and authorities that I follow of a thumbs down. If a post really is crappy, if it's junk, if it's not adding value, if it's just phoning it in, give us the opportunity to put a thumbs down on it. And they've never really done that. But now you've got the ability to say, hey, this seems like AI slop. And I find it rather humorous that they actually put slop in the actual report option in the drop down. It's just like, seems like AI slop. It's got a road sign with an exclamation point in the middle of it. So danger, danger, Will Robinson kind of thing. But when I first saw that come out, I actually went through my feed and I was like, oh, I'm totally going to use this. And I'll be honest, I had a really hard time figuring out or finding a post that I would consider slop. Now, I did find one, and I shared some info and I scrubbed the name out because I don't want to be a total jerk. But it just seemed like, it seemed like it should have been something on TikTok. And even on TikTok, it was obvious that it was an AI generated video just going after views. And there was really nothing of substantial value to it. It was just like some random thing with a random video. And one, what the hell are you doing on LinkedIn with that? And two, it seemed like, so I did use it for that. I don't believe that the individual who posted it gets feedback. I don't think they get any sort of hey, you've been deemed a slopper and Josh is gone. Maybe he'll come back. So I've not been able to determine whether or not the actual person who posted the AI slop gets any sort of feedback. Just like if somebody goes to your profile and they, double ring your bell or they, mute you or whatever the case is, I don't think you get that level of feedback either. But I've not seen that feature roll out on any of the other social platforms yet. And so there are some concerns, obviously, that could that be weaponized? If I decide I really want to go after Josh or Craig or anybody else for that matter, could I get a bunch of my buddies together and say, hey, check out this post and let's figure out how we can go ahead and just report this is AI slop and see if we can maybe get this individual knocked down a peg or two. And Hopefully that's not the case, and LinkedIn will be keeping an eye out for any abuse of that feature. But kind of interesting that they are doing something to make a proactive effort. I don't think that this will be something that'll be a forever element. I think what they're probably doing is using feedback to help train an algorithm to give it some better understanding. And then once they get enough learning data, they'll probably take that learning data and use it to better improve their algorithm. So the algorithm will learn from the human feedback, and the algorithm itself will do a better job of detecting AI slop, and we won't see it anywhere. But I have so many people that I have clicked on the double bell on their profile. So when I go in, my feed is a lot of the people that I've explicitly said, hey, I want to see more information from these individuals. And I think the algorithm's probably having a difficult time inserting all of its other just generic stuff into my feed just to make sure that it's available. So, Autumn, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and share this because at a content workshop with my social stars today, I wish you were able to join because I'd love for you to tell the story of your social stars program at the bank. I think that's amazing. And mentioned AI slot. Thanks for sharing that with us. Absolutely. So as a reminder, if you're interested in joining us live, and I say us, I could have said us when Josh was with us because then that made me and us, but now it's just me. But if you're watching this live and you want to come up and be part of the conversation, go to www.thelinkedbanker.com/happy hour. I used to just say go to thelinkedbanker.com, and people would go to linkedbanker.com and not realize that the was part of the URL. So I'm forcing myself to say www. So anyway, that gives you kind of an explanation of why I'm giving you the long-winded version of the URL. But yeah, AI slop. I think they're training the algorithm. They're looking for feedback. And then at some point, I think that AI slop will just disappear and the algorithm's going to take over. Or you can do what I've done when you connect or follow people, just go ahead and tag the double button or the double bell, and that'll turn them on as you really want to see their information in your feed, assuming they are of the caliber that you really want to see more of their information in your feed. If not, then just let the algorithm do its thing. So let's see. All right. And Autumn says, I wish I could too. So it doesn't sound like you're in a good spot to be able to join, but that's okay. At least you're in the audience and I appreciate you being there. And even though I can only see your profile picture, I will say it's good to see you. And thanks for coming to the happy hour today. I hope everything in Toastmasters is going well for you and you're crushing it over there. So, one thing that I do want to have a little bit of conversation around, and this has got a little bit of a marketing bent to it, obviously. But my good friend Neil Reynolds over at Bank Marketing Center and I did a webinar last month, and it was all about elevating the level of importance and value that marketers bring to their institution and really going from a cost center to a revenue producing partner. And that webinar is available out on our website at poweredbywsi.com. And then there's a resources for webinars, and it's the first one on the list. So you're more than welcome to go check that out. It's not gated. You don't have to give any sort of email or contact information to watch the webinar. You're welcome to just go check it out. But in that webinar, I talk about how a marketing professional inside of a bank or a credit union, for that matter, can take what they do, because what happens with most marketers is you're a little bit of a unicorn. Not very many other people in the organization really understand what you do. Bookkeepers, tellers, lenders, loan processors, they all have similarities that carry over. And a lot of people in senior management most likely came up through the credit side of the bank. So they have a very deep appreciation and understanding of the lending and the credit side of things. but not a lot of real understanding on the marketing side. And I think technology folks also sometimes struggle with this as well. And I just happened to do both of those when I was a banker back in the day. But when I was at the marketing forum in Illinois, one of the questions one of the marketers had was, what's the process that you all, and she's talking to the entire room here, what's the process that you all go through to build out your marketing plan? And she had put 5 years in there. I think 5 years might be a little aggressive and a little long given how fast things are changing these days. My recommendation was to look at it on a rolling 3 year. So you're building your plan for 27, 28, and 29. Then when you get into 2027, you're looking at 28, 29, and 30. Seems so weird to say 2030. That just seems like, wow. But that way you're shortening your horizon, you're giving yourself more flexibility, because whatever you put much beyond that 3 year time horizon, you don't really know. I mean, let's face it, you probably don't know what's going to happen a year from now, especially if you're doing anything in the world of artificial intelligence. Who knows where that technology is going to go and what it's going to do even over the next 6 months, let alone 3 years from now or 5 years from now. But the challenge that I hear over and over and over again, and the one that I really would love to try to figure out how I could help or what needs to be done, is the lack of access that marketing professionals inside of banks have to the strategic direction of their bank. And sometimes that strategic direction might not be very well defined. It could be a closely held family bank where they don't really feel the need to go through strategic planning. Things are just rolling along good. Everybody's enjoying profitability, and you don't have, a big shareholder base to deal with. So, you may not even be going through that process. But I think that's maybe a little bit more of the exception, not the norm. I think what's happening in a lot of institutions is they're going through strategic planning, and for whatever reason, maybe the marketing department either isn't thought of as an important constituent of that process, or should have access to that because there might be sensitive information in there. For whatever reason, senior management doesn't want marketing to be aware of. And I can't really think, because I've been on both sides. I've been senior management, I've been marketing. From a marketer's perspective, the more that you know about what you want your organization to do, what your goals and objectives are, what sorts of products and services, and is it deposit goals or loan goals or community outreach, or you got to shift your brand or be more attractive to the younger clients. The more a marketer understands those objectives and how it ties into the overall goal and profitability and future survivability of the bank, the better your marketing person is going to be able to do for your organization. And if there are things in there that are somewhat sensitive for whatever reason you don't want marketers to see, I would suggest, if you're a senior manager listening to this, first, thank you. But I would suggest scrub that information out, get a redacted version or create a marketing friendly version of your strategic plan, and include the goals and objectives from a product and a service and a revenue perspective, so that your marketer knows, hey, this is what I need to be pushing. This is what I need to advertise. This is what I need to be measuring to be able to come back to senior management and to the board, so that you know that money's being invested wisely and it's going after and going towards the strategic objectives of the organization. We've actually been approached by clients that have said, I want to do an ad campaign. And my question back to them is, great, what do we want to advertise? And their initial thought is, well, we're just going to advertise for the bank. Okay, general awareness is fine, but it's very difficult to measure conversions because you're just building visibility. So you're getting things like impressions and views and maybe top of mind awareness, which is difficult to measure as well. But the question went back to the marketer, like, well, what do you want to advertise? Do you want to go after deposits? Do you want to go after loans, business customers, cash management and treasury services? Seem to be a hot one that a lot of bankers are talking about these days. And so the question came back like, I don't even really know. and said, well, what's the bank's strategic plan say? What's the ultimate goal of the organization? I don't really know. And so it seems to be an ongoing, almost just a perpetual challenge in community banks. And I don't know as if that's something that is fixable. I don't know how we go about um, actually trying to make that better. Part of the content that I shared in the webinar was, try to put what it is that you're doing as a marketing professional in banker speak. So, the impressions and the views and the touchy feely things that we know deep down inside as marketers still matter, because that's what needs to be in place to pave the road that ultimately your products and services are going to drive on and your customers are going to drive on. But it's really hard when you're paving that road to prove that it makes a big difference. What are the things that really matter? Can we measure accounts? Can we measure dollars? Can we measure form submissions and leads and opportunities for commercial lenders to have conversations, downloads for things like white papers or guides or other sorts of materials that we have the ability to create as marketers. But lots of different things that you as a marketer hopefully would find beneficial. And we created a couple of cool tools that as you get done kind of watching that, you can fill out a QR code and get access to a form so you can download some project intake sheets that we've created. Because that's one of the other challenges that I think marketers struggle with, because I've seen it, I dealt with it, and I've heard it from marketing forums across the states that I do these for, is people show up to marketing departments or the marketing person and dump a little project in their lap, and they don't give clear direction. They don't have an expectation of how you're going to measure success. There's no idea of deadline. There's no expectation of budget and how much they want to spend. And so these forms that we've created that are part of this webinar that we delivered help you ask those questions. So one, it'll make sure that you get the answers that you need as a marketing professional to be able to do a good job and at least give whatever campaign or initiative or effort, whatever you want to call it, the best chance of success. But the other benefit is it puts it back in the lap of the lender, the executive, the branch manager, whoever, that there are a lot of things that you as a marketing professional need to know in order to be able to do your job effectively and to be able to produce results. And as a marketer, you're not necessarily an expert in cash management and treasury services. You're not an expert commercial lender. You're not an expert mortgage loan officer. So there's a lot of these things that you probably have picked up over the years. And it was kind of cool. One of the marketers from the forum yesterday made the comment that was just kind of in their 2-year anniversary, came in, didn't know anything about what was going on, came from a marketing and a teaching and an education background, but didn't really have banking experience. And now was really proud of the fact, like, hey, I actually know quite a bit about a home equity and the difference between a HELOC and a fixed term. But the loan officers don't know a lot about marketing. And so over time as marketers, we tend to become a jack of all trades, maybe the master of none at the beginning, but there are certain areas where we are becoming pretty well versed. But that still doesn't mean that somebody should be able to come to you from a department that you're not a part of and expect for you to be a mind reader and come up with the information all by yourself. So having a conversation to be able to get some perspective on what it is that the campaign needs and how you're going to measure it and who's going to be impacted by it and the reach and the exposure, all those sorts of things. That's part of that webinar series that we put together. So if you're interested, check that out. Hopefully that will help you. But it would have been nice to have had some marketing folks up with me to kind of lament. But when that question was asked, not a lot of hands went up in the room. Well, this is how I do it. And when I get the strategic plan, this gives me blah, blah, blah. Nobody in the room really. I mean, there's maybe 1 or 2 people had access and could really talk that thoroughly about their institution's strategic plan. And I think that's a shame. I think that needs to change. That needs to get better so that marketers can do a better job of helping the bank fulfill its goals and its objectives. Because we're the ones that are out there trying to, beat the bush, beat the drum, whatever you want to call it, to generate visibility and interest. And it's getting a lot harder these days, especially with AI taking so much of those top of the funnel searches. People don't need to come to your website to get answers to those top of the funnel questions. The examples that I gave earlier when Josh was on and we were talking about, if we want to do some Chat GPT advertising for home loans, people are going to Chat GPT and they're just grabbing their phone and having a conversation. They're talking to it. Tell me about what PMI stands for, down payments. How do I build a great credit? Those sorts of things. Used to be they had to find a website that had the answers to those questions, FAQs, blog articles, content pages. Now, when somebody shows up to your website, they've gone through all of that, the top of the funnel and even the middle of the funnel. The education and awareness and even the consideration stage has already been taken care of. They're at your website because now it's a decision stage, hopefully, because you've been able to produce non-commoditized content that ties back to your customers, to your community, to your institution, with your people, with real examples that aren't examples or content that can be generically applied to any institution that's out there. So, a little bit of a soapbox there, but I'll go with it. So, in the last 10 minutes that we've got, and I'm going to give you one more as long as I'm on a soapbox roll. This is a rant or a soapbox that those of you that have heard me speak at marketing events, I think I've said this at the Indiana Bankers Mega Conference and a handful of others. And certainly if you were in Illinois with me yesterday, you heard me say it because I warned you, this is a soapbox, but it got asked, is the and I'm going to channel my good friend JP Nichols over at Alloy Labs, the dreaded ROI conversation. And this is the challenge that most marketers have. One, because there's two angles to this. One is anytime you're calculating a financial ratio, whether it's return on equity, return on assets, or return on investment, you have to have a numerator and a denominator. And that numerator is, what is the return? What are you getting for that? And with ROA or ROE, it's easy because you know what the income is for the institution and you can compare that to your assets or your equity and boom, you've got it. The challenge that we have as marketers is typically banks have not done a good job of defining what the value, lifetime value or 1 year, 2 year, whatever the metric is, the lifetime value of what a new customer relationship is. Profitability kind of escapes us a little bit because it's not super easy to define. And there are a lot of rabbit holes. You can really go deep. Do you allocate a portion of your overhead for your branches and staff and salary and benefits and all that other stuff? Or do you just look at the expenses versus the income that you get directly related to that checking account or that mortgage loan or that HELOC? I would suggest starting high level and just doing the basics that are directly attributable to that, and understand you're always going to have all those overhead things happening regardless. So whether you open an account or not, it's still going to happen. As you get more advanced, you may be able to play into that. But to try to figure out what the average lifetime value is of whatever it is that you're going after, assuming the first part of this rant, you've got access to your strategic plan and you know what it is that you actually want to go after. But then how do you justify or understand what that value is so that when you're advertising or promoting or doing any sort of campaign effort that involves dollars and cents and hard costs, how do you compare those with each other and make sure that you've got a number? And that likely is a conversation. Figure out what your CFO likes to snack on in the mornings. Is it donuts? Is it fruit? Is it, a big old pot of coffee? Or maybe they're a Red Bull person. I don't know. But go into their office and say, hey, I'd like to talk a little bit about customer profitability and walk through the various elements for what makes up the components of profit for a mortgage customer, for a deposit, a checking account relationship, or a savings account. You've got interest, you've got fees, you've got balances, you've got the ability to deploy that money elsewhere, you've got a variety of different, you got loss percentages. Sometimes, you got to eat that loan that doesn't pay as agreed. So get those documented and then figure out how they actually interrelate with each other, and then come to some sort of an agreement, even if it's just back of the napkin math, so that you've got some number that you can use when you go out and you do your advertising to help you determine the ROI. I know there's bankers out there that are doing this and being able to measure that. So if this is preaching to the choir, my apologies, but I will tell you, there are few and far between community bankers that have really gotten buy-in for this, because the equation is a little fuzzy. It's not an exact dollar for dollar. It doesn't mean, okay, the ROI, we made this. It's an average. Some are going to be more, some are going to be less, but you've got to look at it over the long haul and be comfortable with that type of an approach, just to give you a sense of if the time and the budget and the effort is worth going into that. So that's the other, I guess, soapbox that I've been talking about lately. The droid reference, and JP joined Alec Crawford over at Veripath and myself on our Future Tech Banker podcast. We recorded an episode yesterday that's being edited and it's going to be released here shortly. But the other element of the ROI, the dreaded ROI calculation, is what's the ROI, or what's the cost of doing nothing? Because there's always that, well, if we, and I hear this a lot today with regards to artificial intelligence, and I've got a 3-part blog series that's going to be dropping here shortly. But the ROI, in my opinion, especially as it relates to AI, comes towards the end, because you invest in AI not for a specific type of outcome, but for a tool that literally gives you the ability to do anything that your mind can come up with. So it's not like buying an LOS or a CRM or an email marketing system where it's got specific functions that it does, and those functions have specific performance metrics that have been validated over and over and over with other clients. Everybody's use case of AI is very different. And some will use it to completely re-engineer their entire loan approval process and give them the ability to 5x their capacity without having to add staff. So now you're doing more loans, producing more revenue with the same amount of expense, and your employees aren't going nuts, pulling their hair out and staying at the office until 2 a.m, like with the PPP loans. That's a tremendously powerful ROI, but not every institution is interested or even able to do that. Others are leaning into more efficiency of rewriting emails and looking at meetings and transcribing conversations, and they're building efficiencies, but the numbers aren't nearly as impressive. But if you can't prove it before you jump in, I think one of the things, and as I was listening to JP talk yesterday, I was wishing that I had incorporated this into my article, is I wish that I had woven in, and maybe I'll go back and do some edits and give him some credit, but what's the ROI? What's the cost of just not doing anything? Like, if we can't prove the ROI of AI before we jump in, we're not going to do it until we can prove it. Well, the longer you stay on the sidelines, the more complex AI is going to get, the more advanced your competitors are going to become, the more competitive and efficient they're going to be. And when you finally get comfortable with the fact that maybe ROI isn't something you can calculate ahead of time, you can think of the process and the elements that go into it, so you know what you should be looking for to help you measure it at the end or after you've been doing it for a while. Those things just kind of got me thinking. So anyway, I don't know if JP's listening to this or going to catch it on replay, but I want to give them a shout out because that sparked some thoughts in my brain as well. So with that, we're 6 minutes out. I fear if I start another topic and I go on another rant, that's going to take us past the top of the hour, and I don't necessarily need to do that. And you all who have been actually in the live audience have been very gracious of listening to me long enough, probably rant on and on. But hopefully what I've been saying, especially if you're on the marketing side of your organization, I've hopefully been getting some amens from you. And pop out, take a look at that website or the webinar that we have on our website. That's what I'm trying to say. The webinar we have on our website, so you can kind of listen to that if you want to send that around to others in your organization. And then if you're interested in getting access to those project onboarding guides, we've built a simple one that's like a one-pager, and we built a more complex one for bigger projects, more in-depth, that goes almost 3 full pages, but asking the questions that we as marketing professionals need in order to do our job really, really well. Because at the end of the day, that's ultimately what we want to do. So with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and just wrap up. If you have any interest in becoming part of the LinkedBanker mentoring and mastermind community, this is the plug, as you were, or as it were, for the mentoring and mastermind community. You can pop over to thelinkbanker.com. Again, it's www.thelinkbanker.com/join. There's information there. We've got a private community that we built in the Circle platform. We do monthly mastermind sessions that are restricted to only members. These happy hours are available to anybody, just as a way to bring people together. Josh, appreciate you coming up and being part of today's discussion. Craig, thanks for chiming in and giving us your 2 cents and getting a little spicy there. And then Autumn, also thanks to you for commenting and tossing in some thoughts, and perfect timing. Glad that the AI slop made it into your discussion today as well. So these go live the second Thursday of every month at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So go ahead and book it in your calendar. We'll get the next one published here in a little bit, and we'll hope to see you in September for our next LinkedBanker Happy Hour. Until then, we'll see you online. Maybe we'll see you in an event down the road, but we appreciate you being here, and that's all for now. Make it a great week. See you, everybody.